I've already had students kind of floating ideas past me, and I know there's a lot of anxiety about writing essays. One of the ironies of many about this process is that I don't think we do a very good job of teaching kids how to write personal essays. And then we say, oh, hey, so here's like the most important essay that you have had to write, like your entire high school career. Go. And they're like, what do I do? Which is very, very valid. And maybe if you aren't as tortured as I was in middle school and didn't write in your spiral notebook every day about the injustices of your life, you're not used to writing about yourself like I was. So I'm here to help. We're not going to go through the entire process tonight. I'm mostly going to talk about like what should you write about, which is kind of the biggest question at the beginning of the process and one of the hardest ones for the kids to do. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen and put it on slideshow. Well, if I can figure out how to do it. There we go. All right, here we go, y'all. It's getting real. Don't be afraid of your essay, by the way. So we're going to start off with some facts about the Common App essay, personal essay. It is 650 words, which is actually not that long. The kids tend to think that this is going to be some magnum opus, and it's really not. It's about 3.5 paragraphs, 4 paragraphs, maybe, if your first and your last are a little anemic, possibly. And it's about like a page and a little bit. So don't freak out about it needing to be very long. But also sometimes it's kind of hard to fit things that you really like into an essay that short. So that's a different problem. This is not an English class essay. It's not one of those hamburger essays where you have an introduction and then your 3 corroborating paragraphs and then your conclusion. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be in a creative format. It can take a different form than what you write for school any day of the week. Sometimes kids experiment with things like poetry or rap. I don't ever recommend that unless that is something that you do all the time and you're really, really good at it and other people tell you you're good at it, not just yourself and maybe your mom. So yeah, but it's definitely not a hamburger essay is the point. You'd be surprised how many kids never use the word I in essays in high school and are really afraid of using the first person pronoun. So that is one thing that you need to know right off the bat. You need to use the word I in this. And the main point is to tell colleges something they won't find out about you elsewhere on your application and to let them hear your voice. If you think about what the college application looks like, and I know that there will be sessions and there have been sessions that walk you through the Common Application and other applications a lot. Most of it is either numbers, grades, other people's opinion of you. Where are you in all of that? Like, where are you as a human being and not just a number on a page or your transcript? Right here. This is it. This is where you get to be a human. So you want them to hear your voice. You want them to know who you are and what you care about, because they don't know that from which English class you took or if you made it to calculus. And they're asking themselves the question, who will you be on our campus? And your essay should somehow, directly or indirectly, tell them who that will be. These are, you don't need to copy these down, but these are the questions, the prompts for the Common App essay. They are the same as last year, and they're the same most years. There was a change a couple of years ago that I really liked with number 4, which is reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? I really like that. It was an addition 2 years ago. And I like it because it's positive. And I think that so often we revert to like all the kids think they need to write about the challenge that they've overcome or, something bad that happened. I really love that this was something positive. Like I thought maybe it would change that narrative to kids. Like you don't have to write about something bad. Something bad hasn't had to have happened to you or your family in order to make you worthy of going to college. You don't actually have to have overcome something horrible. So it can just be something that you love, like something that was really awesome that happened to you, and then that made you feel grateful. But I want to point out that number 7 is share an essay on a topic of your choice, any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design. So honestly, this essay can be about anything. And we're going to talk about some things that maybe you should avoid, and not even necessarily you have to avoid, but just maybe think about avoiding. It really can be about anything. Something that I've talked about with directors of admission is that who read a lot of essays, as do I, you really can write about anything. It's the way you write about it that matters. So something to think about. Okay, so these are the things that the personal essay should do, just kind of repeating what I said in the first one. Allow admissions readers to get to know you better, and that requires vulnerability. This is a hard one for the high school students. It's a hard one for adults, honestly. It's really hard for people to be vulnerable. You are opening yourself up to strangers and you don't know them. This does not mean that you have to tell them the worst thing that's ever happened to you, the saddest thing that's ever happened to you, your deepest, darkest secret. That's not what vulnerability is, actually. It just means that you have to be willing to tell them something that might make you feel a little bit raw or a little bit like shy, or show them a little bit of your heart. It needs to convey something that you care about, that is part of who you are. Notice that I did not say shaped you as a person. I hate that phrase, mostly because I've heard it 8,000 million times in essays. This shaped me as a person. Guys, I'm still being shaped as a person. So I know that at 17, you are not shaped as a person. It is shaping you, maybe, but you're not done yet. And that's a good thing. We all need time to become who we're going to be. So I like to say part of who you are. That's a good thing. And that means a core value. So maybe it's really important to you to be kind to other people. Maybe it's really important to you to stick up for underdogs. Maybe it's really important to you to, I don't know, rescue animals because you care about animals, or, other vulnerable people. It's basically like, what are your core values? What are things that matter to you? And maybe you haven't thought about that. Something that struck me last year, right around this time last year, I had a rising senior come to my office and say, I'm really excited about writing my essay, but I just realized I've been so busy doing high school and doing all the things I do in high school that I've never really thought about like who I am or what I like or what's important to me. So start now. I think that it's a good thing for all of us to think about, like, what do we care about? What do we want to do with our lives? What is our purpose outside of where we go to college, outside of what we do for our living and for our career? Like, what is our purpose in life? My purpose in life is not my career necessarily. My purpose in life is to connect with other people, or to help other people, or to love. Like, those are things that are important to me. You want to show your voice, and that means your voice, which is a 17-year-old voice, possibly 18, possibly 16, but a voice. And that doesn't mean that you use all your biggest words and vocabulary. I was an English major. I know a lot of fancy vocabulary. I do not use it. You'll notice when I talk on these webinars, I don't use all my fancy words necessarily. And when I write for the public, I don't use all my fancy words. That is because that kind of language, if it's not actually your natural way of speaking, puts a barrier up between you and your reader and your audience. So I know that we think that we need to write like we're already in college, or that we've already graduated from college when we're doing these things. But honestly, just talk the way you talk, write the way you talk. If that is the way you talk, that's fine. If it's not, don't do it now. And remember that we're going beyond the stats and numbers to show your humanity, which I already talked about. I've asked college admissions officers to weigh in on kind of what they like and what they don't like when they're reading essays. These are quotes from actual college admissions officers who read a lot of essays. And I've included some of these quotes just so that you can kind of see them. I have a few others later on, but I'll just I'm not going to read off the slides to you, but some of the best essays I've read were on very mundane topics, but they were written beautifully. One was a cross country runner talking about her daily morning run. In the age of ChatGPT, I think that it's less about the form of your writing, although of course we all want you to write well. But it's more about what you write about and what you're telling them. So, and it doesn't have to be flashy. It can be something like your daily morning run, but tell me why your daily morning run is important to you. Like, is that when you center yourself for the day? Is that when you process your feelings? Is that when you decide who you're going to be that day and, set your goals for the day? That kind of thing. And just knowing what you observe and what you notice and what you care about, and the things that you do every day can make me know something about you. Oop. I feel like I just skipped ahead. Hold on. Here we go. Hold on. Sorry. I told you I have not slept. Okay. Here we are. Nope. I have it here too. Okay. Well, we're just going to go with it. So here's what not to write about, maybe. Now, remember I said you can write about anything you want. You really can. These are things that have either been written about a lot or things that can be tricky to write about. That doesn't mean that you can't write about them. It just means you need to be careful. So, what not to write about, maybe. The big game, that's the sports essay. It's very normal for athletes to want to write about their sport because it's a huge part of your life. However, there are these big game essays, which are either the game where you won it, you were the underdogs and you won it, like the Rudy game or the Hoosiers game or I'm totally aging myself with Gen X movie illusions, but you get my drift. Or the game that you lost and it was tragic and awful and, but you pulled together as a team afterwards and you love your teammates. Or the game where you got hurt, and ended your season and it was awful. And then you had to relearn how to be a student after that. My point is, we've all read those essays and it becomes more about the plot and about the sport than about you. And it's hard to stand out. So if you're going to write about it, do your thing, like absolutely try, like give it a go. Make sure at the end of the essay, I know about you and that you didn't spend most of it having to give me exposition about the game, or like using a lot of cliches or generalizations that anybody could write. Just make sure there's a lot of detail about you. Your mission trip. So mission trips, you can see the asterisks are the ones where I'm like, maybe. If you are someone for whom mission trips and charitable service is like the centerpiece of your life, and that is what you do, and it's a core piece of your personality, then by all means, write about it. However, again, I want you to know a lot of people write about mission trips, like a lot. And it doesn't allow me to know enough about you individually. And it's really hard to stand out because the bottom line is that a lot of them become about like what you witnessed and what you experienced and poverty that you didn't know about, and how good it feels to help other people. But at the end of the day, you could have done that in your own community. And there's just something that, if it's a one-off trip that you did one time, it's a little bit like, couldn't you have been doing that in your community like every weekend? And that's kind of what sticks in our heads. So just if it is a central part of your personality and this is your thing, and that's a totally different story, but just be careful. Your deepest, darkest secret. So like I said, this is not, I think that we call this trauma dumping, which is kind of an ugly phrase and I don't love it. But basically, I think that a lot of times teenagers feel like they have to show a lot of pain in order to be worthy. And that's not true. So if something terrible has happened to you or you've experienced great tragedy in your life, I think that if that's something that you want to write about, try to not feel like you have to. First of all, you don't have to. You don't owe these people anything. They don't need to have a horrible, sad story for you to be, admissible to their university. they're looking at you as a student and a human. But if it's something that has, been a big part of your life and transformed you in a way that has made you discover your values, then you might want to write about it. Just make sure that you have processed it. We talk about writing from scars, not wounds. If it's a wound, like open, raw, still bleeding, like metaphorically, it's probably not the best thing to write about because you're still in the middle of it. You haven't resolved it in your head. But if it's something that happened a few years ago or while you've been in high school and you have processed it and you've moved on, then maybe it is a good subject. It's going to be up to you. When kids come to me with this and they want to write about something like this, I encourage them to go ahead and write it out because I think that, as a writer, I process through writing. And I think that it's great to get it out, get it off your chest. But then once you've written it, read through it out loud if possible, because as a writer, reading things out loud is my best tool. I can hear things that I don't hear when I'm just reading with my eyes. And ask yourself, is this the one thing that I want to get across to this school? Like, is this all I want them to know about me? Is this the thing about me that I want them to know? Or is there something else about you that you want them to know? Like, some other value or skill or piece of you that is really important. And maybe you're more than your saddest story, So just think about it. The rest of these are all things that have happened with students. So I didn't make any of this up. How wronged you were by your teacher or your coach. I know that your dance teacher might be terrible, like a terrible human being. It happens. They might have yelled really mean things to you and at you for years, but it's not a great essay topic because it really doesn't talk about you. And it doesn't make me feel good about you at the end. Like, I don't necessarily like, yeah, come to my college. Glad you survived that mean dance teacher. Your resume is going to be in a different place on the application. You do not need to list your resume in your essay. You don't need to list off your achievements. You're going to have a chance to do that. Your grandma Ethel and your grandpa Joe and your brother or your uncle or your parents might be amazing people, but if I read an essay and at the end of it, I want to admit them to the college and not necessarily you, then we have a problem because it's so easy to talk about somebody else. I can write beautiful things about other people. It is so hard to write about ourselves. And so you have to be really careful because it's really, really easy to fall into that trap. You don't want to write about why your SAT score isn't higher. There is an additional information section on the SAT or on the SAT, on the Common App. And there, if you have something that you need to put in there, like, I was diagnosed with a learning disability sophomore year. This was the treatment, my grades have come up from there, or, I was diagnosed late and not before I took the SAT. You can do that. Be careful about making excuses versus giving an explanation. And also, why draw attention to it, right? We're talking about our strengths here. So that shouldn't be there are way more interesting things about you than your SAT score. So write about those. And how much COVID and quarantine sucked. It sucked. It sucked for everybody. All of us were miserable, including admissions officers. But this isn't really the place to write about that. There has been, at least, I don't know if it will be on the new Common App when it rolls over August 1st, but there has been a 250 word space where you could write about anything that stood out for you. Your parents lost their jobs, or you lost a family member during COVID, or, something, you didn't have stable Wi-Fi, you didn't to do school, those kinds of things. You can definitely detail in what we call the COVID question, but I would not make it your central essay because, again, ask yourself, is this the one thing that I want to center my essay on? Is this the thing that I want them to know about me? There's more. Your disability, your anxiety, your depression. Your disability, you can write about in the additional information section on the Common App. Your anxiety and your depression. This is, again, something where when students want to write about it, usually I find that they really need to process it and they really want to write about how much it's affected them. I ask them to write it out and then I say, is there something more about you than your anxiety and your depression that you would want a college to know about you? Let's write that essay now. And that's because, unfortunately, for all of us, really, it's not uncommon to be anxious and depressed if you're a teenager right now. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, so the essays tend to sound alike, and the kids don't stand out that much when they write about it. And I hate that. I hate everything about it. But at the end of the day, I very strongly feel that there are way more interesting things about every kid than their anxiety or their depression. It's not everything about them. It's just part of life at this point. Your political beliefs. If you are a politico in training, like that is going to be your thing, you want to be a politics major, then you might want to write about politics or about maybe like core values that you have in your political beliefs. But this is not the place to go off on a screed or a rant or a protest, because you have no idea who's reading it on the other side. And it's so divisive, especially right now, especially in the next year during an election year, that it's just not the time and place for it. So yeah. Your inheritance, have had kids try to write about that. Yeah, admissions officers don't make a lot of money, so probably not what they want to read about. How you fell asleep in class every day and got an A anyway. That I had a student who actually wrote that essay. And I was like, hey, this is not the flex you think it is. This is not a good look, because you're trying to be a student at this school and they don't want to hear about how you like, yeah, you're really smart, obviously, but anything that would get you arrested. I have had a student try to write an essay about what a good business student he would be because he learned how to scalp the football tickets for the university that he was applying to. Again, not the flex he thought it was, and illegal. So nope, we're not doing that one. How morally superior you are to your classmates is the flip side of that. And kids can get on their high horses here and there, and I get it. You might be far morally superior to your classmates. I do understand that. Not the time and place. And how much you love Michigan when you're applying to Michigan State. That happens so often that I cannot tell you how many sessions I have been in with college admissions counselors where they have begged the students, please do not make your essay specific to one university, because I guarantee you are going to mess up and send it to the wrong place. Guarantee you. It has happened to all of them so many times. And while they try to take it with, a sense of humor, they don't always have a sense of humor about it. And so you've got to be very careful. Your Common App essay should be generalized, not personalized to the school. You can personalize your supplemental questions. You can, tell them in an email how much you love them, but like you can't, you shouldn't, because it will go wrong. Okay, so this is from an actual admissions officer. The worst college essay I ever read was a great essay, but it was about the student's grandmother. And, at the end of the day, it didn't say anything about the student. So what does that leave? Did I just eliminate every topic? Pretty much, yeah. Yep. So again, I'm not going to read this off, but you can read it while I talk. They don't need to be fancy. The kids tend to put so much pressure on this essay. And I don't think that when we have books and, articles about essays that worked, I don't think that's helpful, because everybody's essay is their own story, and somebody else's story is not going to work for you. And when we say they're an essay that worked, what we mean is they're an essay that didn't keep the student out, because it's almost never an essay that gets a student into a college. I mean, admissions officers all say, like, that's not it. Like, that's not how it works. It's more like additive to an application, but it's not going to be the thing that like moves the meter big time. So you want it to be good. You want it to be evocative, and you want it to be a genuine expression of who you are. But this does not have to be the best thing that you've ever written in your entire life. And it does not have to be Emily Dickinson, and it does not have to be Shakespeare. Like, it is just supposed to do the job of telling them who you are. If it does that, it is good enough. So again, no hook necessarily. Hooks are awesome if that's something that you're good at. But it does not have to be fancy or gimmicky or hooky to be good. Stop putting pressures on it. I actually asked I did work for this. I asked the director of admission at a big, popular state university that has lower than 25% acceptance rate what she wanted after this year. And she said less about grandparents and sports injuries. She's very honest. And more about the applicant. What do you want me to know about you aside from your transcript and test scores? We are looking for information to get a sense of who you are as a person and what makes you a great fit for our community. This is your opportunity. So see, I said, that's awesome because that's all what I've already said, but it means more coming from you. And she, of course, thinks it should mean more coming from her. And then one of her admissions officers backed it up and said, please be genuine, help us to get to know you. You don't have to have created an app or done some sort of life-changing thing. We just want to get to know you. So there you go. Straight from the horse's mouth, you guys. Here's some questions. I use this in my practice, and I will here at school, I'm in my school office right now. If a kid comes to me and asks me for help brainstorming their essay, I do ask them these questions and try to get to know them. And the answers to these questions might not actually give me a topic, but it starts a conversation where I can say, I mean, one time a student came in, she had written a draft about her mission trip. And I said, okay, is there anything else about your high school career that has stood out to you other than the mission trip? And she said, well, I'm mostly just a normal kid. Like I play tennis, but I'm not recruitable. I play lacrosse, but I'm not recruitable. I play in the marching band. And I was like, okay, wait, what do you play in the marching band? And she said, well, my whole life, like since sixth grade, I've played the flute. But this year we had a shortage of sousaphone players and we needed sousaphone players. So they asked for volunteers and I said I would learn to play the sousaphone. And I was like, okay, I think we have our essay. Because first of all, she went from playing an instrument that she could put in her backpack to an instrument that was so heavy on her that she had to ice her shoulders down every Friday night after carrying it on the field because it was so much bigger than she was. But second of all, what does that tell me about her? She's such a team player that for senior year, when she could have coasted, she learned a new instrument because her marching band needed somebody to. They needed volunteers. That is a core value, folks. And that is something that tells me so much about who she is. And I just I was like, if you can paint me a picture of you going from carrying your flute in your backpack to icing down your shoulders after a Friday night with your sousaphone, which is like a tuba, like you win, like it's right there. And she did it. And was it the best thing I've ever read in my entire life? No, it was a normal 17-year-old's essay about playing the sousaphone in the marching band. But did it get the point across and tell me who she was and like show those values and like tell me that on a college campus, she was also going to be a team player and she was also going to be all in and that she was going to be someone who would work hard for things, not give up if she hit a bad class, like a hard class where she didn't naturally know everything off the top of her head. Like it told me so much about her. And she got into colleges that were probably a little above her profile academically, but I think that her essay did help add to her profile and say, like, this is a kid who has potential academically, but who shows like a great deal of character. I've also had kids who are applying to very selective schools like Ivies and Ivy adjacent schools who have felt a lot of pressure to write about academic subjects. And sometimes they say, your whole transcript and your whole application shows me how academic you are. You are so smart and have obviously done so well in high school. But I need to know that you have a personality and that you engage with the world and that you have friends and that you can do things that aren't necessarily all academic all the time. For some kids, the academic stuff is their social life, and that's totally valid. And I love me a good academic kid, but I do think that sometimes you want to show even more personality if you can. So I try really hard to push and say, like, what are you doing outside of class? I had a kid applying to Yale who started off thinking he needed to write something super, super academic, and then ended up writing an essay about how he actually has this practice, or he did in high school, of asking his classmates out to dinner just to get to know them better. And not in a romantic way, just like he always went to Mexican restaurants like Qdoba or Chipotle or, um, I don't know, Taco Bell, I think too. And he's like, I like Mexican food. What can I say? But he actually wrote that in his essay, like, I like Mexican food. What can I say? And I thought that that showed a side of him that never would have come out otherwise when you're looking at his straight A's and all his highfalutin classes and his SAT score. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Lots of kids have high SAT scores. Not lots of kids do not have high SAT scores either, but like there are a fair amount of them applying to those same schools that he was applying to. That wasn't going to make him stand out. But I think that the way that he approached his classmates and the way that he tried to know people and like really get to know them outside of class, I think that did stand out. And he is finishing up at Yale right now. So that worked. My own son, who is in an Ivy League school too, he didn't write about anything academic at all. He wrote about being a lifeguard. And I do think that I don't think it's necessary to have paid work on your application if that's not something that has fit into your life for whatever reason. But I do think that you can learn a lot from jobs. And I have had a lot of wrote about things they learned at jobs. Now, I think you, like just with anything else, you need to write specifically about what it was that you learned. And it can't just be like the same old cliches. For my son writing about being a lifeguard, he had lifeguarded at two different places. And one of them he was not very excited about because the supervisor seemed really hardcore and it was really, really strict. And, you know, he could do nothing but focus on lifeguarding and he had to clean the toilets and he had very strict like hours. The other place was a country club and the supervisor was really chill and laid back. And it didn't seem like that hard of a gig. And he learned that he hated the country club and he loved the other job, which was at a local Jewish community center, because at the country club, because it was so chill and laid back, nobody really respected him. And it made him so nervous and anxious that the kids were running all the time on the pool deck and, you know, jumping off of things they weren't supposed to. And their parents would say, you don't have to listen to him. He's just a teenager. And at the Jewish Community Center, where they'd almost had a kid drown a couple of years ago, they really, really respected the lifeguards. And, you know, the lifeguard's word was it. And he liked knowing, he wrote about how he started off thinking one thing, and then what the summer taught him was how he wanted to be treated, how he wanted to treat other people, what was important to him about a job, and kind of what to look for in a purpose and a career. He also, you know, clever insights like, you know, that he still can't like walk across a parking lot without wanting to tell children to stop running, and that he wonders if David Hasselhoff has the same problem. But, you know, that's the kind of thing that you put in at the end, not at the beginning when you're trying to figure out like what you're going to write about. So some of these questions that I think are really interesting. I like the superpower question. And a lot of times my students are like, well, I don't have a superpower. I'm just normal. I'm just average. I have no superpower. And I'm like, okay, well, I would say my superpower is connecting people because I know a lot of people and I will connect them if I think that they could help each other or they should know each other or it would be great for them like to learn something from each other. And that's my superpower. And I take that very seriously. I think that's a really important gift to have. And it's something that I work at. So I'll say like, you know, who are you in your friend group? What is something that your best friend, what words would your best friend use to describe you to me? What three words? And why? Why would they use those words? Can you tell me a story about those words? That's usually at the start of a really good conversation. I also think that it's really powerful. Your best friend different things about you than your parents, but I do think that it can be powerful to talk to your parents and ask them like, what words would you use to describe me and why? Because your parents remember things about you that you don't remember or that you don't notice. Because it's like our whole jobs is to like completely be obsessed with you and watch everything you do and hopefully not let you know that. So I do like to kind of compare the two. Like, what would your best friend say about you? What would your parents say about you? And if you don't know, find out. And that's the end of my slideshow. Oop, maybe not. Oh, it was not the end of my slideshow. Sheesh, you guys. It's been a long day, but pretty much the end of my slideshow. The questions that I had on the last slide were to ask yourself, am I being vulnerable? Am I holding back? Am I hiding something still when I'm writing this? Am I trying to sound smart and like trying not to tell you everything? If you're holding back, stop holding back. You can always edit it out. You don't have to keep everything in. Like that's what a first draft is for. Ask yourself, so what? So what? Why am I telling you this story? What is the point of me telling you the story? With 650 words, you have to so what every single paragraph. I want to know the point of every paragraph you have. How is it pulling the point that you want ahead, right? And at the end of the day, read it out loud, record yourself if possible. Actually, one of my favorite writing techniques is to, if you're having a hard time starting something and the blank screen is just blinking at you and staring at you, yes, this is a feeling I know well. Use your voice memo app on your phone or your computer and just start talking to it like you're being interviewed. I used to do it like I was being interviewed by Oprah, but I don't know who the equivalent would be now. Maybe pretend like you're making a TikTok video, but tell your story out loud because you can transcribe the parts you like onto the page and it will actually be in your voice because it's your voice. Great how that works out. And once you've written something, read it out loud and listen to how it sounds. Listen to if your sentences sound too formal and clunky. Listen to like, does that feel real to you? Do you feel genuine? And that would be useful too. Yeah, but this is just supposed to be a story about you. It's a storytelling exercise. And here's my biggest example and my favorite thing to talk about. And I warned Lisa I was going to talk about this because it's kind of my thing. One thing I've been talking about with my students is because it's really hard when you tell a student, like, you want to show and not tell. You want to use descriptive words. You want to like talk about a moment and then tell me why that displays, like, tell me why that is your core value or what that is. And they're like, it's like you're talking in a different language. So then I pull out this. Is there someone right now in popular culture, in the world, who is a really, really good storyteller, who is super vulnerable and open, maybe too vulnerable, but super vulnerable, open, honest, and who uses very specific details and stories about their life to tell us stories about who they are. And at the end of the day, they're super relatable to the point where the whole world loves them because they can relate to what this person is saying. Who's that person? It's Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is such a good personal essayist, you guys. She's amazing at it. And I think that one of the things that's most amazing about her, and yes, I am a Swiftie, like I've got my actual college friendship bracelets on. It's the University of Florida. One of the things that's so amazing about her is that she uses such specific details that you would think would make her songs not relatable at all. And instead, everybody's like, oh my God, I have felt the same way. And it can be my 12-year-old screaming words to the man, or it can be me, someone who has been married for 20 years and still relates because I remember what it felt like to be dating someone when I was, 20, actually 20. Hard to believe I can remember that, but yes. And not even dating, but like I can remember being gaslit by somebody. And that is what Taylor does, is she uses super, super specific examples and stories, and she has everyone feeling their feelings about it. I actually use the song All Too Well, a 10-minute version, to show this. And listen, I have 3 boys, and they would get this too. Like they honestly can get this example too. So it's not just an example for Swifties and it's not just an example for girls, but if you lyrics to the 10-minute version of All Too Well, the way that she paints imagery in her songs, the details she uses, the scarf, dancing in the light of a refrigerator light and at night, looking at pictures from when you were on a t-ball team with your mom. All of those things, all those little details. I did not date Jake Gyllenhaal. I didn't have that experience, but I know what she means. Like, I get it. I can see it, and I can feel what she felt. And that's how I teach the kids to use detail in their writing and to paint mental pictures for me. Tell me the story that you've decided to tell me. Tell me the story that tells me what is important to you. And if you can write things like where she writes, I'm a crumpled up piece of paper lying here. Like, I get that. Like, I can see that. So use that descriptive language. You can honestly write about anything in the whole world, but if you're using descriptive language like that and you're letting me see into your memories and into your head, you got me. Like, I'm right. So that's my big tip, right? Like Taylor Swift. I mean, if it was that easy, right? We'd all be billionaires, but we can at least try. And we can use adjectives and observations and specific details the way she does. That's a little more granular and into the writing process than I am supposed to go tonight. I'm really supposed to be talking about ideas and things that you could write about as topics. But I hope that the main things you'll get from me are, it doesn't have to be fancy. It can be, oh, every time I do this, like my little thumbs up thing comes on. Sorry. I talk a lot with my hands. It doesn't have to be fancy or gimmicky. You don't have to have overcome some horrible thing. I hope you haven't, honestly. But if you have, like, of course, that's something to be proud of, but you don't have to. It's okay to have had a normal life. It's okay to just be trucking along and getting through the hard things that come every day to normal people. And that doesn't make you like less worthy of going to college. And use plain language, use normal words, unless you talk like a dictionary, which I have had students who do, and that's fine with that. But most kids don't. And if you don't do it now. Don't try to be funny if you're not funny all the time. Don't try to be somebody you're not. Like, just be you. When I read essays, if I can see the point of view of the kid and I can feel their personality come through, I don't even really care what they've written about. And I think they feel the same way. They just want to know that you're a person and that you like things. One of the best essays I read last year was by a student who's very interested in environmental science. And he had volunteered at his state parks every summer. And he wrote about being assigned to the like less popular state park. And the summer before, he had been assigned to like the popular park. This is a student from San Francisco. So just for context, he had been at Golden Gate Park the summer before, and now he was at a park that nobody went to. It was like marshy and kind of gross and, you know, not in the best neighborhood. And he was really bummed because he was like, is this going to be boring? Like, what am I going to do all day? And the first day that he was at this park near the water, because it's near the, you know, near San Francisco Bay, he saw a super rare red, and I'm totally going to get the details wrong, but like a red octopus, like right there in the shallows. And he realized like it was really pretty. He described it and he used all his like observational language. This is a child who is very STEMmy, very sciencey, not it necessarily, but he used all language to like paint the picture for me of seeing this octopus in the marsh, like, and hearing it squidge like across the marsh. And I could totally picture it from what he wrote. And, you know, basically his message was, I realized that like you can find like extraordinary things anywhere, and that I needed to like learn that there are beautiful things no matter where I go, and I just need to be looking for them, right? Little less like generalization cliche-y, but that was his basic message was, and what I got from that is he's a serious scientist, like, and serious about environmental science. It really, instead of just reading it on his resume, like it really painted the picture of what he did and like what he had experienced for me. But it also showed me like into his heart a little bit because he was also very, clinical in other ways. But it showed me that like he was thinking about things, like his critical thinking skills and, applying things to other aspects of his life. I hope that's helpful. Yeah, but I've also had kids write really, really good essays about their acne, um, about the way their acne affected them early on in high school and like learning to get over themselves and like do it anyway, even if you were embarrassed about the way your face looked that day, or if you're a lacrosse player and you had acne on your shoulders and you were really embarrassed about it and you just did it anyway and you decided you weren't going to let it stop you. Um, Acne is not the worst thing in the world, but to a teenager, it's kind of awful. Validly. I mean, can't control it. You feel very out of control. So I had the gamut of essays all the time, but I'm trying to give you enough examples so that you can see it really can be like pretty much anything. And it is truly the way a kid writes it. And it doesn't have to be that you're the best writer in the world. It just has to be that you are willing to talk about things. Some things I wanted to mention that maybe Lisa can put in the chat. Ethan Sawyer from College Essay Guy is like it when it comes to essays. He has free resources on his website, and he has some great exercises that you can find there if you want to brainstorm ideas. One of them is his essence box exercise, and it's on his website. It's also on his YouTube channel. I think he also talks about it on his podcast. All of those are under Ethan Sawyer or College Essay Guy. And the other things that he does really well is he talks about core values and kind of elaborates on that. He has some questions of his own that he has kids ask, like he has like 100 questions that kind of like dig deep and try to get you to brainstorm about yourself. So I always direct kids to that website and to his YouTube channel. If you don't want to like read a bunch of stuff on a website, you can always go and just listen to him talk. It's very soothing. So, and he's a friend of Grown and Flown. So he can be really great. He also has a podcast. I also like Inside the Yale admissions office for a podcast, and they cover all sorts of topics. And it does not have to be like only for people who are applying to Ivy League schools. I just think it's kind of an interesting like look into a college admissions office. And I like the people who do it. And I think that they do a good job of explaining things like it's okay to quit a sport. Like it's okay for a teenager to change their mind about how they want to like live their life and the activities they want to do. It's not going to look bad if you change your mind and you're not in marching band all 4 years. Like that's totally fine. We would never expect that of adults, that kind of stuff. So I know that they cover essays as well. So those are two places that I would go look. Ethan also has a book, I have it up there somewhere. That's why I'm pointing back there, on college essay essentials that I think is pretty good. I would stay away from those like essays that worked kind of things. I mean, if you want examples, that's fine, but I find that it makes people feel more pressure and more like they have something to live up to. And again, it just means essays that didn't keep kids out. Like it's not that they worked, it's that they didn't not work. So just keep that in mind. Yeah. And okay, so let me answer some questions and then I'm going to close with like a couple of closing thoughts. And here we go. So from the group, we have my daughter is a sophomore. Her brother has autism and is 18 months younger than her. Could she write an essay about how her life has been shaped by being a sibling of an individual with autism? She's always been a great asset to him and very inclusive. She has talked about writing about this, but we both wonder if it would be frowned upon because the essay wouldn't be all about her. So, like I said, you can write about anything. In this case, what I would encourage her to do is absolutely give it a shot. Like try it out. Like there's one way to find out, write the essay, like write 3 paragraphs, work on it, workshop it. It can't be all about him. It has to be about her. So what I would do is maybe start with exposition that involves kind of like a moment she's had with him, an interaction she's had with him, something that comes up a lot. Maybe he has repetitive behavior or language that they use between the two of them. And then after that initial introduction, then it needs to be about her. It can't be about him. It needs to be about her and what it's taught her and how she carries that into her life. So I would say I'm absolutely positive it has been part of making her core values, and making her who she is. Absolutely. But I need to see that from her point of view and not through him. So I would say give it a shot and just make sure that you are using him, using her relationship with him as a conduit, but not as the main story. Our daughter is a rising senior interested in engineering due to schedule conflicts. Okay, I read this one earlier, so I know. So basically, the bottom line in this question is, for an engineering student, will there be an issue with applications in the fall because she hasn't had AP Calculus? Instead, she's been taking dual enrollment math classes, and she's already in linear algebra as a junior, and she's not able to take AP Physics or Chem until senior year. That's not a problem. And depending on where you're applying, where she's applying, it really might not be a problem. First of all, I mean, being in actual college and taking linear algebra as a junior, I mean, who cares if she takes AP Calculus? Like, she's good. It's fine. That should be fine. Not taking AP Physics or AP Chem until senior year is totally fine too. My question would be, if she's applying to schools like University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, where you're applying into the major, and if you don't get into that major, you don't get into the school, you want to make sure that there are other ways that she can show that she's interested in engineering and that she has been working towards that. And they also ask the question, and she'll want to make sure that she can answer that clearly, like how she knows she wants to be an engineer. But for liberal arts colleges that also have engineering schools, I mean, a lot of times it's really not about that necessarily. And taking it senior year is fine. She sounds like she's doing fine, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. You can also, in the additional information section, just explain, I'm taking AP Physics and AP Chem because I wasn't able to do it. My school, I went ahead and chose to do dual enrollment math because of the policies at my school, and that's fine. They're not going to worry about it. She's doing great. Okay. All right. Well, good. And just wrapping things up, I just wanted to, Lisa and I talked about me bringing up the topic of mental health before I sign off tonight, because we are like starting to launch into a new cycle. The juniors are getting ready to become seniors, and the seniors are getting ready to leave. I have had so much anxiety for the past like week and a half because I'm an AP coordinator, and there's a lot of stress to coordinating AP exams, and College Board and I are not friends, that kind of thing. But I will tell you what my biggest point of anxiety is. And that is, I'm anxious that I'm going to have to call an ambulance for one of my students. And that's really awful, because I wish that that wasn't what I was worried about. But I hear the kids come in ready to take a test that honestly does not matter in the grand scheme, especially for seniors. Like, they're already into their colleges. Most of these tests won't convey for a lot of them, or if they do, it's going to be, one half dozen or the other. And they come in talking about how they woke up in the middle of the night and threw up from being anxious. I have had a kid have a full-on panic attack in the middle of an AP exam that did not matter for him before, and he did have to go to the hospital. I am anxious about the kids being anxious. So if that tells you anything, these are AP exams are low stakes in the grand scheme of college admissions, and they cause the kids so much anxiety. So what I would say to you is, if you have a child gearing up for this process, I talk about this all the time. I'm just going to reiterate some of my messages that I try to get across to parents over and over again. Your kid's worth does not hinge on where they go to college, and you know that already because they are your favorite people because you made them. And valid. They don't know that. You have to repeat that to them. I don't care if they roll their eyes. I don't care if they don't want to hear it. They need to hear it. They need to hear that they are more than their SAT score so desperately. They need to hear that they are more than a bad physics test grade. They need to know that they can get into college if they get a B, and they can, or a C, or a D. Like they could still get into college. It happens all the time. Um, Good colleges. I hate the phrase good colleges. There's so many great, great places to go to college. And um, I look around, ask yourself, I challenge the teenagers all the time. They come to me and they say, can I drop baseball? I'm not enjoying it anymore. Is it going to look bad? Like, would you ever expect your parents to play baseball if they didn't feel like playing baseball? Is somebody going to judge them on whether or not they play baseball for 4 years? No. Would you judge an adult who doesn't go to work every day from 7:30 in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon and then do a second shift of extracurricular activities until 8 o'clock at night and then do homework? And then maybe they don't make a good grade on their test the next day. Would you ever tell an adult that they're not good enough because they didn't do any of that? Like, what are we demanding of our kids? And what expectations are we telling them there are for them? And so just, keep all of that in mind. With college admissions, there are so many factors at play that kids are not in charge of and that you're not in charge of and that we're not going to control. And it's not a great system from anybody's point of view. The colleges know that it's somewhat broken. The kids know it's broken. It's not a meritocracy. None of this is fair. At the end of the day, college is awesome. I don't care where you go. If you go to a place where you can grow and thrive and get an education and start becoming the adult you're going to be and make friends who are going to be like your people, you're employable. You can have a good life. You can have a good career. And as parents, I know that we just worry, like, are they going to come home and we're going to have to pay for them forever? Like, I'm not set up for that. Trust me, I have 4 children. If you think I don't think about that, you're wrong. Like, I worry about it every day because I can't work forever, you guys. But at the end of the day, with 2 kids in college of my own and a junior in high school whose school is not his favorite thing in the world, and a 12-year-old girl who's just trying to figure out her place in the world and how to treat people and how to want people to treat her, like there's so much that's bigger than where we go to college. And it is really easy to get into college. It's just hard to get into certain colleges. So let's take the pressure down a little bit and say, let's look for, if you go and watch my session from 2 weeks ago, let's look for those early wins. Let's make sure that they know they can go to college. And then your job as senior parents, as I say, is to hug them and feed them. Snacks and hugs, you guys. Be their parents. Love them and tell them so often, like, you're worthy, you're good enough, and you're going to be fine. Like, that is what you need to keep telling them. Yes, snacks and hugs is my favorite thing to say. But it's just like having a newborn. Like, you got to love them and you got to feed them. And you got to make sure they get sleep. And you got to make sure they know that this is just a tiny bit of their life. There's so much more out there, so much more to come. And at the end of the day, such a small little part. And let's not make it miserable. It's your last year with them before they go off into the world, and make it good. So I promise you, I'm telling you, kids will be fine. They're going to be fine. They're going to be fine as long as they know that they're worthy human beings and they have purposes outside of where they go to college. Okay. And their stories are great. So tell your story. Tell your story. These college admissions officers just want to get to know you, and they want to, find kids where if after they've read your essay, they say, I can't wait to run into that kid on campus someday. That's all you're trying to get to. Okay. All right. I think that's it for tonight. And I really appreciate you being here. I hope it was helpful. And I will see you soon. Everybody, if you have kids taking AP exams, good luck, solidarity. I'm just as anxious as they are, and we will get through it together. So good luck, everybody. Good night.